Cashing Out continues with me, Joe Ceraulo, also with our friend Tony Cutillo joining us on the Progressive Guest Line here. Got some great value DFS plays. Tony, now it's time for these Thursday night props. These have been nothing but nails the last couple of weeks, man. So close to an almost 6-1 hit last Thursday. You were on the Tim Patrick ladder. He went over 20.5 with ease, got 2 touchdowns. But he finished with, 44 yards? It was the over 50. That would have been plus 550, man. I loved the play. I mean, you were right there. It was a hell of a cap by you on a nearly 6-1 bet. Let's get back in the shop, back in the lab for this Thursday night. Rams, Niners, San Fran laying 2.5. The Rams with a big upset win over San Francisco earlier in the season when we thought the Niners were probably a little better than they've proven to be. Let's start with the Super Bowl winning quarterback of the bunch, Matthew Stafford. What do you like out of him?
Man, I'll tell you, man, I love Matty Stafford. I really do. Like, I've been tooting the horn all year. This is a guy that I love to pick out players that I always say are guys who don't get the notoriety they deserve. And Matthew Stafford is that guy. He's the guy that deserves a lot of flowers and gets zero. And what he's doing this year from the quarterback position in this McVay offense has just been electric. And now he gets a healthy complement of elite wide receivers with an elite running game, with an elite running game. So I'm going to go number one. We're going to go over 1.5 touchdowns. So he just consistently hits us at ease. Well, you're throwing to guys like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, who is not going to be able to throw touchdowns. Oh, and by the way, he's got a guy in DeMarcus Robinson that just catches touchdowns, and a guy in Tutu Atwell that can run all over the field, which is why we're going to go his over 32.5 attempts as well.
Ooh.
Again, like, this guy throws more now than he did in the beginning of the year simply because the running game is so elite and all his receivers are healthy. So, listen, Matthew Stafford, give me everything with Matty Stafford. I love the play against. Listen, this is not the typical 49ers defense. They are reeling as a team right now.
Yeah, the defense is injured. I mean, look, they had a great performance against Chicago. This Bears team is an absolute dumpster fire. You look at what Stafford did against them. It was a run-heavy game in that upset week 3. The Rams were 0-2. They played the Lions tremendously. Then the injuries caught up to them. They lose 41-10. I believe that game was a pick 'em against the Cardinals. They lose 41-10. Bounce back their home opener. Stafford, 16 of 25, 220. So a modest output. Didn't throw a whole lot. 1 touchdown, no picks, clean game. But Tutu Atwell went for 493 against San Francisco in that contest. A big fourth quarter, 13-3. They outscored the Niners in the fourth, 27-24 win. It was a shocking win. I mean, this is a Rams team that's gone from 1-4 to 7-6. You look at some of the teams they lost to, and obviously they were hurt. But you're like, oh my goodness. They lost to Arizona 41-10. They lost to the Bears. Since that 1-4 start, they are 6-2. And by the way, their second win of the year, they barely beat the Raiders 20-15. If these teams met tomorrow, it would be 37-10. Rams would win that game. All right, Stafford over 32.5 attempts, over 1.5 touchdowns. I can't believe how generous of a price that is, only laying 25 cents. How about Brock Purdy, the other QB? What do you like?
Yeah, listen, here's another guy and another team has just been decimated by injuries. But Brock Purdy has been able to make it work with guys like Jawan Jennings catching the football. And, speaking of that, they don't know who the running back's going to be this week. We don't know, what's going on with Garendo. We don't know who's going to be back there. So that's just going to mean more numbers, meaning more attempts. And Brock Purdy has been pretty damn efficient when he's throwing to guys like George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Jawan Jennings. I keep saying Jawan Jennings because this guy has been a household name, man. He really has. And he's helped these numbers soar. So I think this is a very, very, very easy number at over 19.5 completions. It's a number, as long as he gets the volume, which I'm giving the extra cap to about 4 to 5 throws because of the running back injuries, that he should easily get.
All right, you keep saying Jawan Jennings, but who's the receiver that you're targeting with a couple of props in this one, Tony?
Yeah, listen, when I do the props for receivers, you got to go by value. Who's giving you the best value? And you mentioned Puka Nacua earlier. Over 7.5. I'm not like, that's too big for me. Not doing it. Jawan Jennings is starting to catch on, right? They're juicing his numbers all up. But the guy who hasn't been juiced up Okay, I know it's minus 146, but you can get the Debo at over 3.5. And the Rams give up big plays to speedy wide receivers. And they're going to utilize him not only in a running game, but they're going to utilize him in the wide receiver screen game. They're going to utilize him a lot in the flat, too. So I like the over 3.5 to get a couple of those extra short passes in. And by the way, I'm going to take him as an anytime touchdown at plus 150, because if he's used more as a running back, it's going to give him touchdown opportunities as well.
Yeah, I mean, good value there for a guy who gets involved in the offense in so many different facets. I'm surprised at that number, and I know you got to lay decent juice on that. I know you got to lay 45 cents there, which is not typically the most fun thing to do on a prop, but I'm surprised it's 3.5 catches. Look, Debo hasn't gotten a whole lot of action lately. I mean, you look at the leading receiver on the team, it's George Kittle on the year. He's got 800 yards. Yep. Debo has one more game played, but just 550 yards. He's third to Kittle and Jennings as well. But I got to imagine he, kind of went public saying he's not getting the ball enough. He's still, even though he only had 2 receptions, 3 targets in the Bears game, I think the targets more than the receptions is the issue there. He is still gone for 4 or more receptions in 4 out of his last 6. So he's not happy with how much he's getting the ball. It wouldn't shock me if a young quarterback like Purdy acquiesces, gets him the ball more in this one. But he's still gone over this in 4 out of 6. So, I mean, if he gets a few more targets, 4 catches is not difficult. I would lay the 45 cents of juice on that one, even though it goes against normally what I'm comfortable doing. I love that play there. And then the touchdown would be just the gravy on top. All right, your patented defensive prop of the week. You always close out with one, Tony. Who is it? And, I mean, he's a stud. What do you like?
Oh, yeah, complete stud. Listen, we hit on a stud last week at Quay Walker. We hit that in the first half. That was no big deal. This one's a little higher, but it's plus money. Like, you're giving me Fred Warner at over 7.5 total tackles for plus 115 against a team that Kyron Williams and now Blake Corum are going to get the ball 25 times. Like, who's going to tackle him? It's going to be Fred Warner. So, and the wide receivers like Puka Nacua is used a ton in the flat and the slot. Cooper Kupp in the slot. Tutu Atwell in the slot. I mean, he's going to be a tackle machine. He should have double digits. So to get this number, Joe, for plus money at over 7.5, there's no way you can't lock this in.
I like the play. He hasn't done this in 4 straight games. That's why you're getting the plus money there. But prior to that, Warner did it 5 in a row. I mean, he's just as ferocious and also as fast as you're going to find anyone at the linebacker position. He's a hard hitter who can fly. He really is a one-of-one type player, Tony. I like the play. Tony, who do you like on the game? San Fran laying 2.5. It feels like they're begging you to take the Niners at home in this one. Oh, you're going against the great. You think the Rams sweep San Fran on the season series?
I don't care about the division game. I don't care about any of that, man. Listen, I've been tooting the Rams horn for the past 4 weeks. And I know a lot of national people were talking about it today. I was talking about it 4 weeks ago. So that's the one thing. I'm usually ahead of the game a little bit. And I looked at this and just looked at the way this team is constructed. And possibly I have a little Sean McVay bias because I have always had a man crush on Sean McVay. I listen, man, the way the guy calls a game is he's offensive genius, right? And what he's been able to do right now is unheard of. And if I was a team, let me ask you this, Joe. If you took 3 teams and you took the Eagles, you took the Lions, and you took the Rams, if you had to take one offense to go all the way, which one would you take?
Eagles, Lions, Rams?
Yes. If you could take one offense.
Oh, I'm taking the Detroit Lions. No hesitation there, Tony.
I'm taking the Rams.
Over Detroit?
Yes.
We saw the overtime game between the two. Rams never got the ball because Detroit went through them like a hot knife through butter.
Again, I'm not talking about the full team. I'm talking about the offense.
Yeah, I'm saying the offense. Detroit marched down the field in overtime, never gave Stafford the ball back in that one.
I will never trust Jared Goff in my life in the playoffs, ever. If I'm gonna go against anybody, I'm gonna go with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford any day of the week. Not Sirianni and Hurts, not Campbell and Goff. You give me McVay and Stafford. So that's why I'm taking them out there in San Francisco. I'm taking the Dolphins.
I agree on McVay as much as I love Ben Johnson. You're nuts if you don't go. If any of those coaches, and I'll say Sirianni, McVay, Johnson, because Johnson runs the offense in Detroit. Yeah. Obviously, you go McVay. But to me, Detroit just has the better weapons. I know Kupp and Nakua are insane, but the way Detroit's running backs open up the field and get involved in the passing game as well, that's why I'm taking Goff, because if it's not there downfield, I'd rather have Gibbs and Monty versus Kyron and the Rams' lesser receivers. Detroit, deeper offense to me. But it's a great question, Tony. I love the discourse, as always. Thanks for hopping on. Follow him on Twitter at RiseWithTony. Tony Cutillo, everybody. More cashing out, more winners up next.